Hi, lovely and darling viewers. It's Jen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm reviewing How to Move to Canada, A Discontented American's Guide to Canadian Relocation by Andre du Broc. It's a French name, I think that's close. So this is a really short, kind of a guidebook to any American who is ready to chuck it all and is upset with American politics and has threatened to move to Canada. So this guidebook is funny. It's hilarious. It definitely falls into the humor category, but I still think it's pretty informative about the immigration process and Canada in general. So this is one of those books that I wouldn't know anything about if I didn't work in a public library, and it just somebody else had checked it out. So this book kind of has two different parts to it. Part of it is going through the immigration process in Canada, and it's pretty brutal and frank about how hard it is to get a visa and to actually get permanent resident status to actually become a Canadian citizen. So like the first two chapters may seem a bit harsh, but it's definitely like a, hey, are you absolutely certain you want to do this kind of a thing? This isn't gonna be easy, but if you are, then here's the steps you take. So the first two chapters aren't quite as entertaining. What's really fun about this book is the middle section. This book has 7 chapters. 3 of them deal directly with the immigration process and aren't really that much fun to read if you're looking for a humorous book. But the other 4 chapters in the middle give you a guide to Canada, explaining the terminology of how Canadians speak Canuck. There's a chapter on Canadian pride and the government and what it means to be Canadian. Some of these are definitely stereotypes, so I'd be interested to know what any Canadian would have to say about this book, and if they would refute any of this information. But it's a humor book, so it's not 100%. It's also short, so we can only do a brief overview of things. So there are overviews of each of the different Canadian provinces, what they all feel like, kind of how they relate to American states. Like if you're a Californian and you definitely feel that liberal vibe to it, maybe you want to move to Vancouver. And if you're from New York and you really love that nitty gritty city life, maybe Vancouver's more for you. And it definitely describes what the heck is up with Quebec, which is kind of its own distinct, unique thing, and is pretty brutal about the fact that Quebec probably doesn't want you, the American English-speaking one. And also explains why Canadians make fun of Newfoundland all the time. I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently it is. And it's also pretty brutally honest about Canadian winters, which, coming from Cleveland, I mean, I'm not that far south from Canada. It's just the distance of the lake between us. So I definitely related to his descriptions of how to survive winter and what you need, like all the supplies you need, and how to pack your car. So this book does have activities in it, like this one where you're trying to unscrabble the different Canadian vocabulary that was previously discussed in the chapter. There's a few word searches in here. There's a Canadian flag you can color in where you need your red crayon. And like I said, the winter one definitely got to me. So here's the what will help you survive in the Canadian winter versus what is useless junk that you just have. The entire tone of this book is definitely joking. It's kind of sarcastic and makes it a very entertaining read. And it would be interesting to know from somebody who is Canadian how much of this they're like, oh yeah, definitely, and how much of it is just somebody taking the piss, basically. So basically what I got out of this book, if you guys just want a brief overview of Canada, is that if you're actually planning on moving to Canada, you better have a skill. You better have a job, education. You better have moolah. It's going to cost some money to get through all this paperwork, and Canada doesn't want you if you're broke. They're not going to let you become a citizen just to live off welfare. Not in their best interest. There's a ton of paperwork, which I kind of assume there would be. Having Having friends or family in Canada that can vouch for you is also going to help you. So that's kind of the basics of the immigration process. There's a lot of stuff you need to find, like all your tax returns, and you should have been paying your taxes because Canada doesn't want you if you're not going to pay your taxes, obviously. And as far as Canadian life and its citizenry, apparently they're pretty cool, laid back people who want peace. Pretty non-violent, but they still like their guns a bit. Not like Americans, though. I don't know. This book was just fun. I loved reading it. I read it in a couple of hours. It's 130 pages, and they're not even like that packed. Here's some of your Canadian terminology you should learn if you want to move there. Describes how beer is packaged, trying to explain the metric system. So yes, I found this book funny and a delightful read. It's if you're actually planning on moving to Canada, it is an overview and a starting place, but it's definitely not in depth and it's not going to talk you through every single step you need to know to get through the immigration process or everything you need to know about Canada. But I think it's a really funny head start. Definitely more of a joke book, I think. The kind of thing you hand to somebody when they say, I'm going to move to Canada 50 times. You're like, all right, here you go. Go. Bye. So there's my review for How to Move to Canada. It's a little bit different than my other reviews because, well, it's a little bit different of a book. If you have read this book, let me know what you thought of it. If you're Canadian and want to defend yourself, feel free to stick those down in the comments below also. Or if you are actually going through the immigration process to Canada, let me know what that's really like. Peace out. I love you guys and keep reading. Bye.